Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major Darian White. 2026 marks 125 years of dedicated service by the Australian Army and its predecessors. Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Arthur William Blennerhassett. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students from Swimming Australia. Now, if you are able, may I please invite you to stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Those who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Arthur William Blennerhassett. Arthur Blennerhassett was born on the 1st of May 1892 in the Victorian goldfield city of Bendigo. He was the third of 4 boys born to Irish confectioner Richard Blennerhassett and his wife Annie Paul. Arthur attended the St Andrews College in Bendigo before going on to complete his intermediate Accountants Institute examination at Bendigo Business School in 1912. After qualifying as an accountant, Arthur found work at the office of Mr. W.F. Creeth before going on to manage the accounts of Cohn's Brewery, a Bendigo institution. He was also a member of the Victorian branch of the Incorporated Institute of Accountants. Arthur was an active member of the local Bendigo community. He attended services at St Paul's Anglican Cathedral with his family. He was also treasurer of the Sandhurst Rowing Club and an award-winning pigeon racer and breeder. Arthur enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 7th of August 1915. He was allocated to the Special Reinforcements of the Army Medical Corps with the rank of private. 2 weeks later, Arthur's younger brother John enlisted and was similarly allocated to the Army Medical Corps. The brothers completed their initial training together at Ascot Vale Camp, departing Melbourne on the 7th of March 1916 in the troopship Corula. Arthur and John arrived in Egypt in late April 1916 and were taken on strength of the 13th Australian Field Ambulance at Serapeum. The unit remained in Egypt until early June, when it embarked from Alexandria for service on the Western Front. Arriving at the southern French port of Marseille on the 13th of June, the men travelled by train to Strelitz in northern France. During the journey, Arthur wrote home to his parents, describing in vivid detail the beauty of the French countryside. He wrote, "Amongst corn and along the railway track there were vivid red poppies, margarinettes and other wildflowers, whilst occasionally we passed fields of sweet lavender. In the morning, on putting on one's head out the window, a lovely perfumed air was inhaled. It was a treat in itself. If I went on writing for a week, I would not give you anything like a description of the beauty of all the things that we saw." Before long, the beauty Arthur described was replaced by the harsh realities of trench warfare. The 13th Field Ambulance spent the summer of 1916 supporting troops in northern France. Arthur and John worked as stretcher bearers, responsible for administering basic first aid and transporting casualties from the field to regimental aid posts and casualty clearing stations. Casualties were carried by hand, with 4 to 8 men carrying a stretcher across rough and often dangerous terrain. In August, the 13th Field Ambulance moved south to support the bloody fighting occurring in the Somme Valley. John was admitted to hospital for medical treatment on his foot in early August and remained away from the battalion throughout September. By early September, Arthur was suffering a badly poisoned hand and was offered lighter and safer work at the Field Ambulance headquarters while he recovered. He refused to rest, however, and continued his duties as a stretcher bearer. On the 3rd of September, Arthur was carrying stretchers to a nearby casualty clearing station outside Walloy under great shell fire. A shell burst close to his position, sending shrapnel flying. A piece struck Arthur in the neck, severing an artery and killing him almost instantly. He was 24 years old. Receiving the news of Arthur's death, John cabled home to his parents to pass on the news. Condolences promptly poured into the family from the men of the 13th Field Ambulance and friends at home in Bendigo, all of whom remembered Arthur as a heroic favourite of those who knew him. John survived the remainder of the war and returned to Bendigo in February 1919. Arthur's remains were buried in the field by the men of the 13th Field Ambulance. After the war, his body was exhumed and reinterred at Pozières, British Cemetery of Villers-Bruxelles. His headstone bears the inscription that was selected by his grieving family, "Greater love hath no man." His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories, sacrifices told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Arthur William Blennerhassett, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.